my friends, I was like, I guess my strength is knowing that I can't do it anymore, So then and I try to encourage the guys who do it. Like I would reach out to the guy who was in and like happy opening and good job checking in, just trying to make sure that so that I can also like also celebrate them.
Yeah.
And not go, oh, that was in the past. Screw that. Da, da, da. I feel like I have like a spiritual responsibility to cheer that production on too, So.
And in a way, you're still part of it,
Yeah. Yeah. I never thought about that, but thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing that my director said too, which is great. She was like, "You're the right Lincoln at the wrong time." And she goes, "I would definitely call you again. I would definitely work with you again. Like it's just, the timing is awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my family, not to mention, everybody was coming down. Everybody's coming down to visit. Like I had family and friends galore that were coming down to the show. And so like when I left, I had to send them all text messages and call all of them and tell them,
Yeah.
But fortunate enough, my people actually proved to be my people,
Yeah.
Everybody was like, okay, you guys about to play. You're the person. You actually, we need you.
Yeah.
There will be many more. So yeah. So I'm in Montgomery, finding ways to do what I can do, but really, really seeing some light now.
Yeah.
Seeing some light.
It's awesome. It's awesome that you have that support. Yeah.
It is. Any other thing is that's why before I was like, yeah, Halima, we can do this again, but if you want it to be real, it might be sad.
Yeah.
But it's
That's
true.
okay. As long as it's honest.
Yeah. Yeah. So what have you been doing? How have you been keeping busy and staying sane? Because even with me going through this, what I found to be true, I feel like if you talk to any artist, especially actors and writers and people that's directly in our industry like that, or everybody is like feeling the same.
Yeah. Pretty much. I can tell you, like we talked, it might have been January of 2022 when we did a live together, and you were like, "See you next year." And I was like, "Oh no, let's do it like in June, 6 months from now, see what we're doing, blah blah blah." And then June rolled around, and I didn't forget. I just was like, I haven't done anything. I'm like, I haven't booked anything. I'm not working. I really was like, what am I going to talk about?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just feeling so bad about where I was and everything. And, a lot of people had a hard 2020, but I didn't. And then I had a really good 2021 and like things were going really well. And I was doing commercials and all this stuff. But 2022 was kind of like smack down. And it felt like, oh, maybe this is my 2020 because it was just, yeah. And by the end of the year, I was pretty much like, okay, this is just the end. It's just like, open up a hole and swallow me.
Listen, like Maya Angelou has this poem or this poem where she says something about being she's no alien to no one, basically. To the racist, to the to the bigot, to no matter what your sexuality or whatever. She's no alien to mankind. And like I feel like sometimes when I go through such hard times, it is basically weeding out all the things I thought I was different. Like, for instance, being real, being candid. I never ever thought about suicide. And not that I thought about doing it. It's kind of like well, it'd be nice if I wasn't here. But I don't have to actually take my life or do it myself.
Yeah.
But I felt like this low, and again, I have never experienced, my brother passed away, like 21 years ago. That was tough. And I, I told my therapist that like when my brother passed away, I was an engineer. And so I think I only had a week at home. And then I had to go back to Tucson alone and like go right back to work. But like when you're an engineer, like numbers are numbers, projects are projects. And so there's no emotional attachment to it. But like I tried to do the same thing with my grandmother. But as an actor, that didn't work out well, But also like I had to do that, and I'm having to go back and even address things with my brother's death because again, what society tells me, keep moving. And you're supposed to move, but God doggone it, you're supposed to at least feel. And I was just moving without feelings, and 10 years, 15 years, and even today, like I still have to do work on that. But the difference in the jobs is that I was an engineer and I could do that work without thinking about my emotions, and then just cry when I get home, or even, in the back when he passed away too, I felt like I couldn't cry because I felt like I wouldn't stop.
Mm.
And then like me being away and like coming home, like they all had each other, to kind of grieve him. Whereas like when I would come home, I couldn't be like emotional. And like I'm the person in my family where kind of like if I fall apart, they'll fall apart, So I would come home and just try to like hold it together. When every time I would come home, and mind you, I was coming home only like twice a year then. So I could actually pretend like it never happened until I get home. I have to deal with it. And so like I feel like I may be like honestly like maybe 10, 15 years behind them in the grieving process. But to try to do that in
Creative
in acting is like, bruh, give it up. It ain't happening, Yeah. But that 20, yeah, that is, so I really identified, like I didn't have a hard 2020. After I got out of the emotional part of like, oh, okay, grad school is gonna change, but I don't remember not having the support and not feeling the love. And no, not really struggling with, and then, yeah, like I think recently this has been the most.
Yeah. And then I was like, you know what? If I'm gonna, nothing's gonna happen or it's never gonna get better, then I should just do something I've always wanted to do. So I decided to go to Australia by myself.
Nice.
Yeah. And oh, this is crazy. I'll tell you a little bit more after we stop recording. But I decided to go there, right? And my friend, we have a production company together, and we've been doing like short films and stuff, and we were supposed to do that bigger film, and it fell apart, whatever. But she was gonna go, but she didn't have her passport. Whatever. So I said, fine, I'm gonna do it. So I got in a plane, I flew to LA, and then it was like a 15-hour flight to Australia from there, from LAX. Why did I do this? Like, I don't even like to fly. And now I'm on this flight, and I'm like, I felt like I was in like a time warp. Like I kept falling asleep and waking up, and it'd be like 2 hours have passed. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, I feel like I'm going through like a black hole. Nothing's real. Like, it was No.
Okay. Because you do know also alcohol is free internationally.
No, I didn't know that. But my sister was like, "Well, why didn't you take like a melatonin or something?" I was like,
Listen,
just sitting there.
I would have been so slizzard. Listen, I would have been so slizzard. Like I would have been drunk.
That might have helped, but no, I was just with my thoughts like, "Holy, well, this was a bad decision." And then I was like, "Well, if the plane crashes, what difference does it make at this point?" So I just had, it was crazy. But then I got there and it was just bright and sunny. Everybody's so nice, so nice. It was just
That's what you needed.
really interesting.
You needed to go somewhere it was just love and light.
Yeah. Exactly. If you were like, "You're from America," like, "I love your accent." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "You guys have a cool accent."
Look,
what is this?
I'm about to go to Australia.
Yeah. It was really cool. The problem was, so I landed and I thought I would rent a car. I mean, I, booked it and everything, and I started driving. So I knew they drove on the opposite side of the road. You see where this is going. But I didn't understand that the cars were opposite. So I was sitting on the right side. And
That's trippy, ain't it? It's trippy.
This thing, everything. Yeah, I was like, I could have driven a regular car on the opposite side of the road. Like, I mean, that's,
they're gonna
drive on one.
Put you on the other side and put you on the other side.
Yeah. So 2 minutes into my trip, I'm not kidding. I'm like, I'm just following the cars. And then I was like, oh, I need to get over to the left side, which is fully on the other side. Wait for it. I hit the curb and had a blowout. The tire. So I was like, oh my God. I pulled over into just a place. It's like a park. And I get out completely flat. I'm like parked in the middle of two spaces. I don't know where I am. I've been in Australia for 15 minutes. And I call the rental place and they're like, oh, you have to call a tow truck. So they give me the number. Like, I'm thinking, could you guys not do this? But whatever. I call. The lady is super nice. She's like, are you in a safe place? I'm like, I don't know where I am. Is it dangerous? I don't know. I'm not in the road, right? And so then I'm like, there looks like it's a grocery store. And so I walk over. And as I start walking, looking for people, there are two women in hijab. Like, there's two Muslim women there. And I was like, can you tell me where I am? Like, I'm like trying not to cry. Can you tell me what the name of this place is? They're like, oh, you're at this park, and oh, there's this, and they're telling me all this stuff, and I'm telling the lady, and she's like, oh, okay. Well, can you tell me about the tire and what happened? Can you look to see if you have a spare? And so I'm doing all this stuff, right? Basically, I left LA at Tuesday at 4 p.m. and didn't get to my Airbnb in Australia until 10 p.m. on Thursday because of the time difference. Yeah.
So let me ask, was it did you have a good time though overall?
I did.
Mm-hmm.
It was like up and down and various emotions, and when I got back I was like, that was crazy. Like, what was I thinking? But then now, like just a couple of days ago, I was about to order something, and I was like looking at my old orders, and I saw one from when I was in Australia, and I just started smiling. I was like, oh, I did that.
Cool.
So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Good. That's good. Like, not to be all like airy fairy and lovey, but like I always say, because the song "What the World Needs Now Is Love, More Love." Like I think we know how to do that. Like I think we know how to love. The problem is, are we brave? Are we brave enough to make the choices for our lives that bring us joy? Right? Are we brave enough to experience the love? Are we brave enough to really fight for ourselves, right? Are we brave enough to walk away from something that doesn't feel like love? Are we brave enough to question, is it love? Are we brave enough to confront our loneliness? Are we brave enough? Are we brave enough? Are we brave enough? And if we're brave enough, then we go to Australia by ourselves. And so, congratulations. You get a notch on the bravery belt.